football in St. Johns County. We have reached the midway point of the season, and we're going to do a little bit something different today. We're going to break down what we've seen so far and what we're going to see here in the latter half of the season. Two sports writers here for the St. Augustine Record, Danny Klein to my right and Stuart Corfridge to my left. And we're going to break down with these guys what they've seen, the teams that they cover, and the players that they've seen perform well in the front half of the season. Stuart covers Nease and Ponte Vedra. We're going to talk to him about those two teams. Stuart, what have you seen with Nease the front half of the season? What have you seen with Ponte Vedra the front half of the season? And what can you expect the second half of those two teams?
Well, I think Nease, obviously, I think they're a little disappointed right now. I think they definitely wanted to get that win over Episcopal. Last week, the game against Trinity Christian is just a phenomenal team. There's no real shame in losing to them. You know, they haven't really been clicking on all cylinders so far. You know, having Tyler Weir didn't play against Episcopal, didn't play very much. He was playing hurt in the first game of the season. So I think they're kind of looking to get everybody back. Devin Flynn, who's one of the top running backs in the county so far this season, he's been in and out of games. Denzel Hayden has come in and played really well as a replacement. But after a while, if you're going to be carrying the ball 25 times a game and then playing on defense, you know, that's a lot to ask any kid in high school football. And so I think they're trying to get everybody healthy. Obviously, what's in front of them is still a chance to win the district title. You know, still a chance to go back to the playoffs again. They outlasted Creekside a couple weeks ago. Maybe that looked like a win when the schedule first came out, but Creekside's playing a lot better, I think, than we thought they would. You know, after just one season under their belts. So, you know, they still have a chance to win the district, and that's what they're looking to do still.
And how about Ponte Vedra? I know you've not had a chance to see them too much besides the fall and spring, but 2 wins for the Sharks have got to be feeling pretty good if you're a second.
Oh yeah, I think there's no question they've improved a lot. They're obviously playing much better football. I think they're playing a lot better even than they did in the preseason game that I covered. They're throwing the ball around a lot. They're mixing things up. You look at Clay Mazza. I think he's had a great season for them. They already got about 5 picks. You know, they won 2 games. That's a lot for a team that's coming off, you know, their inaugural season. The first year they have seniors. They've definitely go in the right direction, and they're not going to be an easy win for many teams in the district.
Good. Thank you for that, Stuart. And switching gears to Danny, he handles St. Joseph and as well as Creekside. So Danny, what have you seen with? I know you've covered Creekside a little bit. They had a big win against Mandarin, the first road win I think in program history, and they go and beat Matanzas and also St. Joe, a smaller school, had a coaching change early on in the season and have really since then have blossomed. So take us through those two teams.
Well, starting with Creekside, I mean, based on what happened last year and what you've seen in the early going and in the preseason, I think they have to be surprised and, you know, really pleased with the wins that they've had. You know, they beat Mandarin, which, you know, I don't think it's been stated enough how big of a win that really was, and that's a 6A school. And even to score 35 points against Nease, which if you look back last year, I mean, they probably would have lost that game by probably 4 touchdowns. So, you know, they've come a long way, and I think a lot of it has to do with Kevin Payman and with guys staying healthy. And before he was there, they scored 6 points against Middleburg, which is a team they probably would expect to beat now. You know, and last week, you know, Matanzas is a perfect example. That's a school that's been around since 2006, and they go in there in their second year, and really they basically manhandled them. They have some problem with turnovers early on, but, you know, then they really just run the ball and score 35 unanswered points. So, I mean, you really have to look at them and think, you know, going forward, they have a chance to do a lot of really good things this year, the rest of their way, and, you know, definitely next year, and then forward after that.
And St. Joe, another team, Bob Esquera has taken over in the second week of the season, and St. Joseph has not lost since then. Scott Jones, the driving force behind that team. 2 teams I want to talk about, actually 3 teams. Bartram Trail, 3-2. They've already surpassed their win total from last season. Really still a chance to be a factor in the district race. A big one against Nease this week will go a long way toward determining their playoff future. Bartram missed the playoffs last season. St. Augustine, head and shoulders the class of the county and one of the best teams in the state. They're 5-0 for the 9th consecutive season. So St. Augustine showing no signs of letting up, and really, if they lose or even are in a close game in the second half of the season, that's going to be a surprise. And last but not least, Menendez. They're 2-3, started off 0-3 record, and really not the start anyone in that south end of the county expected to do. They've gotten back on track. They've won their last 2 games. Tough one against St. Augustine this Friday night. They've been outscored 372-9 in that series, so really not a favorable matchup for Menendez, but they they've got 2 more district games other than that, so really a chance for Menendez to make the playoffs for the 2nd season in a row. And before I wrap it up, I'm going to chat with you guys and some of the top players you've seen. Just rattle off a couple of the top players you've seen this year, and you do the same.
Okay, well, I'm going to start with Creekside, and I mentioned Payment before, and he's really been huge. And then also Andrew Schultz, which is a wide receiver. I don't think he's been getting enough credit. And in the big games, he's really stepped up, and he was big against St. Augustine, even though they got manhandled. And
He
every
almost single-handedly beat Nice.
That's true. And then against Mandarin, he had, I think it was, I know it was over 10 receptions and about 150 yards. So he's a guy I think is becoming better by the game, and he's a senior receiver I think you should probably look out for.
I think Schultz is on pace for about 65 receptions this year, which would be the numbers of some Nice receivers we've seen in the past, or Ryan Ellis, Will Oakley. So pretty impressive numbers in the passing game for Andrew Schultz. And Stuart, what about you?
Well, with the teams I've covered, they really haven't been able to keep guys on the field on a regular basis. Obviously, Denzel Hayden had an incredible game a couple weeks ago. Scored on defense, scored on offense. And he's not even their starter for Nice. Obviously, Devin Flynn, if he stays healthy, I think is a guy that can come close to 1,000 yards, maybe even hit 1,000 yards if he can stay healthy. Because Coach Danny Gallagher's not afraid to feed him the ball. So I've been really impressed with them. Played a lot last year as a sophomore, and he's only getting better.
3 guys I want to mention. St. Augustine High School running back Dwayne Brady is on pace for probably about 1,800 all-purpose yards. Second in the county in rushing to St. Joseph, Scott Jones, another guy to look out for. Scott Jones, nearly to 1,000 yards rushing this season. Brady has just been on a tear. He's probably one of the best players in the county and in North Florida at this point. Going to Bartram Trail, sophomore quarterback Nathan Peterman. He's really delivered. He's got 6 rushing touchdowns, 3 passing touchdowns. So he's a guy to watch out for, not this year, but next year and the following. And Menendez, Dustin Bryant, he's old, reliable. He missed a game, but nonetheless, Dustin Bryant doing it on offense at Menendez. And Tony Stewart's a guy, his name is going to be mentioned quite a bit, not just this year, but next year too when he's a senior, drawing some major college interest. So some pretty good prospects in St. Johns County. And last but not least, moving over to Player of the Week, Dustin Bryant, a guy I just mentioned, 132 yards last week. On 11 touches. He had the game winner with under 4 minutes to go as Menendez beat Middleburg 33-27. So Dustin Bryant, the St. Augustine Records Week 5 Player of the Week. And we will wrap that up for our midseason review and talk kind of maybe latter half of the season, playoffs starting to take shape a little bit next week. So thank you to Danny, thank you to Stuart for joining us this week, and we'll catch back with you next week for another edition of Football in St. Johns County.